Dallas Races Net, first and third Sunday, 8 p.m., W5FC.
And don't forget that just as Skynet starts at 9:01 p.m., give or take, depending on which part of the Metroplex you live in, we're going to have a long, high ISS pass. I have to go see what the clouds are like, but 7 minutes, 74 degrees, northwest to southeast, 9:01 p.m., NT5TM.
Yes, sir, Tony. I announced that at the end, right after the end of TechNet. And it's going to be difficult for me because I'm net control of Skynet. So I can't go out there and look. It won't even start at 10 degrees above the horizon until 9:01, and I'll be already running the net. So I probably won't get to see it. But if it's clear, it should be interesting. And I think it's clear. I haven't looked. Let me look real quick and see if it's clear here. N5BB. Tony, it is pert near clear here in Irving. So I think it's going to be very visible. So if some of you participants want to delay your check into Skynet, you will not hurt my feelings. N5BB, net control, coming up in 4 minutes.
Well, Bill, very good. Yeah, I missed your announcement at the end of TechNet. I was finishing putting my hex beam back up for the second time today before I lost the light. So yeah, I've definitely got to develop a new technology for supporting that antenna. But for now, it's up and working very well. But looking forward, I'm so glad I got back on the ISS spot the station list. It expired, and I missed the renewal and blah, blah, blah. But I'm exuberant to be back on. NT5TN.
I heard you, Tony. I was just in the next room doing the few things I needed to do before starting the net. Disposing of liquids I drank earlier and getting some new liquids to drink during the net. N5BB, Skynet coming up in 1 minute. Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is N5BB.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
This is N5BB. My name is Bill. The call is November 5 Bravo Bravo. And I'll be your net control station for this session of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday evening at 9 p.m. concerning the subjects of astronomy and space. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the # break break in your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from your net control in 5BB. Stations are reminded to identify at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using a W5FC-R station identification or Echolink node 37247. And I am looking on Skynet Echolink right now, on the repeater Echolink. And I see a comment for Kelly about being gone for 3 Saturdays, but should be on Skynet. So it sounds like she's going to be around. Let's see. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio and video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. And I believe Tom is streaming it over there at the same time. I just drives me crazy trying to look at it streaming while I'm talking, so I don't do it. But you can go look at it now if you want to, and you'll have an interesting experience. All amateur operators are welcome to participate in this net. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This is N5BB, Skynet Net Control. The net is 90 minutes long, structured in several parts. I'll whip through these very quickly. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society events. The discussion topic of the evening by the Net Control was up, space exploration and space history, the constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, and if we have time, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. Right now, as I speak, there is an International Space Station pass. So if you want to go outside, it started 9:01, 3 minutes ago in the northwest, and it will proceed for a few minutes over toward the southeast. The maximum height is, I think, somewhere between 55 and 70 degrees. So it's a pretty good pass, and it's pretty clear outside. So if you haven't seen the ISS recently, run outside right now and look for it. It'll be a big bright light looking like a super bright planet that's moving from the northwest to roughly overhead and then moving over to the southeast, I believe. I think that's the correct direction. Let's see. We'll then talk about astronomical questions and answers if we have time, and the 73 round at the end of the net, which will be at about 10:30. Again, all amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. This is N5BB, Skynet. Let's start with low power and short time check-ins to Skynet. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Lima Lima, Huey Richardson.
Okay, KSI-PLL. Hello, Huey. So you're checking out early? Is that why you're coming in now? Huey, are you a short-time check-in? Is that why you're coming in now?
N5BB. What else would I be doing? KFI PLL.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I said short-time or low-power check-in, so I just wasn't sure which one you were. Okay. Do we have any other check-ins, either low-power or short-time? Please come now with your call sign, name, and your location.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power, and watching the International Space Station decline over the southeastern horizon.
WB4MFI. I recognize you, Ted, and yes, a couple of other stations are telling me that the ISS was just overhead and very bright. So unfortunately, I'm stuck in here at the radio and can't really multitask that way. Any other short power or low power check-ins? Short time or low power? Please come now to Skynet.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Uniform Foxtrot Romeo, short time and mobile. Presently Dallas on 635.
Okay, I'm sorry, but I've forgotten your name.
Oh, my apologies. It's Jacob, Juliet Alpha Charlie Oscar Bravo, KG5 UFR.
Very good, Jacob. I've talked to you before, but I'm not very good about names. It takes me a while to remember them. KG5 UFR, I recognize you, Jacob. Okay, one more call. Any other short time or low power check-ins to Skynet?
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra. Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power, is watching the ISS.
W5GUS. Okay, one more try. Any other low power or short time check-ins to Skynet? Come down.
Zero Oscar X-ray Charlie Carter Lower Greenville.
Okay, station's breaking up. Something zero. Well, it's an X-ray Charlie. Please come again with your call sign, name, and location.
Kilo Delta Zero Oscar X-ray Charlie Lower Greenville Carter.
We got it, Carter. KD0OXC. Okay, last try. Any additional low power or short time check-ins to Skynet? I'll listen, and then I'll go ahead if I don't get any more in 5BB. Okay, nothing heard. Now, general RF check-ins. We'll do Echolink later. Any general RF check-ins to Skynet? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is in 5BB, net control.
November 5, Golf Hotel Oscar, Lance in Louisville.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo 5, Golf Lima Delta, Randy Rowlett.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Echo India Uniform, David, St. Paul, Texas.
This is Alpha 5 Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Limaville, Farmers Branch.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda and DeSoto.
One of the better passes, K5, JDW, John and Coppell.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay in Mesquite.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-ray, Tom in Louisville. I'm a general check-in.
Kilo Echo 5 Echo November Eric in Plano.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite, and watching the ISS was over my head.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton.
Okay, let's pause there. That was a pretty good list. I recognize N5GHO, Lance, NT5TM, Tony, K5GLD, Randy, KG5EIU, David, AA5AH, Robert, KF5ZBL, Bill, WB5OZL, Brenda, K5JDW, John, N5OF, Clay, KE5ICX, Tom, KE5EN, Eric, KF5JHA, Chaz, KG5APL, Patrick, and KG5WVL, James. Do we have any other RF check-ins to Skynet? Please come now. This is N5BB, your net control.
Kilo India 5, Victor Delta November, Lee out of Irving.
Kilo India 5, Uniform Juliet, Dustin in North Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey J, no effort.
Okay, I recognize KI5VDN, Lee, KI5UUJ, Dustin, KG5BZWJ. Do we have any other RF check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB, net control. Okay, I'd also like to recognize AG5PM Rich. He checked in right before the start of the net. So I recognize Rich. Okay, how about Echolink check-ins? I see JJ, he's listen-only mode. I've heard that before, JJ, so that's N5IMS. JJ has forgotten where his mic button is. And we have, who else? K5KTX, Kelly, do you want to check in on audio?
Good evening, everyone. This is Kate.
Okay, Kelly, well, we heard you. You kind of fell out early, but we got it. I recognize K5KTX. And let's see, who else haven't I spoken with? Chaz, the Skynet Jester, has already checked in. Chuck, WB4AIZ in Kenneth City. Chuck, would you like to check in on audio from Echolink? And if so, please let us know what state is Kenneth City in.
Yeah, that would help. WB4AIZ here in Kenneth City, Florida. I should put that on there too. Anyways, it's I'm here in the assisted living facility, and don't have any access to antennas or anything like that. So this is Echolink's by bridge. So at the moment. So yeah, this is WB4AIZ. Over.
Okay, very good, Chuck. I believe you said you were in Florida. So welcome. This is a net about astronomy and space. So it should be interesting. And next we have KF5NXR. John, would you like to check in on voice over Echolink? And if so, please let us know where you're located, John.
Hey, this is John, KF5NXR from Caddo Mills, Texas. Actually, I'm just around the corner from this Kelly. So, I'm in Caddo Mills, Texas.
I know where you are, John. KF5NXR. Out there, probably close to Exos Aerospace. Very good. Okay, do we have any other check-ins via any mode for Skynet? This is N5BB, net control. Okay, nothing heard. So now let's talk about general announcements. Do we have any general announcements, which could be things about amateur radio, astronomy, space, or anything of general interest to hams? It could be local things. It could be international things that you think everybody on Skynet would like to hear. If so, please come now with your call sign only. General announcements. This is N5BB.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Kilo India 5, Victor Delta November.
Very good. Tony, you're first. NT5TM. This is N5BB. What's your announcements?
Very good. I'd like to remind everyone that this is not the last night of the net or the weekend. We do have the Afterglow movie discussion coming up at about 10:30 p.m., featuring a new Star Trek movie, newish, that I just haven't had time to watch, so I hope it was a good one, and that people will say good things about it, so I'll be interested. Tomorrow night is the first Sunday, believe it or not, so we have both a meeting on the air on this repeater at 7 p.m. that's open to any ham who'd like to share what's been going on in their ham world, and a Racy's Training Net on this repeater with a special guest training presenter, N5BB, at 8 p.m. Only Racy's appointees can check in, but any station is welcome to listen to the presentation. This Monday is a first Monday, believe it or not, so we have Ham Fixins at 7 p.m., and this Tuesday is the first Tuesday, so we have a Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting which will focus on Field Day. More details at w5fc.org. We're meeting in person at the Dallas Medical Center at Webb Chapel and LBJ, 7 p.m. Now, we're also, as I was reminded, looking for folks to contribute to the Field Day potluck. It's not too early to sign up. If you think you know what you might make, you'll find a sign-up sheet at w5fc.org. Thank you, everybody. Have a great night. NT5TM.
Very good, Tony. Does anybody have any questions about Tony's items? By the way, Field Day, if you don't know, is the last full weekend of June. So it's exactly 3 weeks from today. It starts at the operating portion starts at 1 p.m. on Saturday, June the 25th, and runs for 24 hours. Does anyone have any comments or questions about Tony's item? If so, please come now with your call sign. Nothing heard. KI5VDN Lee, go right ahead.
Thank you. Just wanted to mention that the DFW Ham Radio Expo is next Saturday. Looks like it hasn't been going on for very long, so it'd be nice to give them some love. KI5VDN.
Okay. Yes, that is coming up here. So that is coming up. Now my brain is empty here. It's coming up soon. Man, it's not on. Oh, I know. Here, no. It's not on my calendar for some strange reason. Well, that's weird. Anyway, next, do we have any other announcements before we move ahead? This is N5BB Skynet. Okay, I'm going to try to slide through this boilerplate because it just takes so long. There's 2 local AMSAT nets for the radio amateur satellite group. One is on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. on this repeater. However, it's not held the night of the club meeting, which is this Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting, which is this coming Tuesday. But other Tuesdays, you'll hear it at 8 p.m. Central Time on this repeater. And then on the Arlington 6.14 megahertz repeater, you'll hear a similar AMSAT net Wednesday nights on the Arlington 147.14 megahertz repeater at 9 p.m. on Wednesday. That's 9 p.m. Wednesday on the Arlington repeater, 8 p.m. Tuesday on this repeater. The DARC has many nets on this repeater, and I'm not going to list all of them. But there's nets on Monday night at 7 p.m. There's something going on every Monday night at 7 p.m. There's things going on Tuesday nights, the first Tuesday of the month, most Tuesdays except for the club meeting nights. And on Friday nights on this repeater, the City Simulation Net is at 8 p.m., where you can hear various things about emergency communication. And then Saturday night is the Night of Nets, with TechNet at 7 p.m., Skynet at 9 p.m., and the Afterglow Net at 10:30. Also, the training net for National Traffic System is every evening at 6:30 p.m. on this repeater, and at 10:30 p.m. on the Irving 146.12 megahertz. 146.72 megahertz repeater. Now, the Afterglow net tonight. There's been a lot of confusion about what we were going to listen to. Tom, can you tell us what are you going to talk about tonight on the Afterglow net? KE5ICX and 5BB.
Hey, thank you, Bill. This is KE5ICX. Well, I wrote a special thing because this has happened to us twice in 2 weeks, so here we go. The Afterglow group skeptically looked at the URL link and knew if it has the word Star Trek attached to it, it would most likely disappear faster than a natural warp bubble. Sure enough, the Star Trek 2009 link disappeared, just like the first episode of Strange New Worlds last week. It came as no surprise. But with the Star Trek Beyond from 2012, links survived from a similar fate. Cautiously, I clicked the link and the Paramount logo disappeared, and all the other financing companies from Alibaba to Bad Robot appeared and disappeared over the Michael Chicano tonal introduction. Somehow it seemed okay. Will it still be there if I go for a beverage and a quick snack? Let's find out. The television had plenty of time to switch to something else, maybe a Klingon episode from DS9, or that horrible next-gen first season finale clip, or even, dare I say it, the original series Space Hippie show. The picture unwavered and continued. At last, we can watch a complete Star Trek movie, in this case, Star Trek Beyond from 2016, tonight at 10:30 p.m. And indeed, it was there all night long. Now, in case you happen to be an early riser and watch the film, or an early bird, I should say, and you watch the film Star Trek 2009, that's okay. You can talk about either one. But the movie of interest tonight will be Star Trek Beyond from 2016. Now, I have some important news to share with you that I didn't put into the script. But we have a winner for Field Day. We always watch a movie during Field Day, and this year is no exception, although we had, 2 years where we didn't do anything. The movie will be Battlefield Earth. Yes, indeed. You picked it as the worst movie of all time. Well, we'll be watching it at Field Day in person and together, if you dare, at 10:30. So there'll be no net that evening. However, we'll talk about it the following week. So if you're joining us at Field Day, come on by and watch Battlefield Earth with us. Back to you, Bill, KE5ICX.
Okay, Tom. Well, if you had been at the International Space Development Conference last weekend in Arlington, Virginia, suburb of Washington, D.C., you would have heard retired Colonel Carlton Johnson, the head of the National Space Society Board of Governors, singing Klingon war hymn, a war tune, a war song, which was rather amazing. He's well known for this. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Moving forward, what's next? Any additional check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB. Any additional check-ins? Come now with your call sign and your name and your location. Yeah, JJ reminded me on Echolink that the event at Louisville is going to be at Music City Hall next week. It's next Saturday, June the 11th. That's what I thought. It just wasn't appearing on my calendar. Oh, no, there it is. It is on my calendar. I just was missing it. Okay. Okay, next. What is next? Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. Chaz, tell us what's going on with the TAS. This is N5BB. Skynet.
Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, June the 24th at 7:30 p.m. The meeting will be in person at the University of Dallas and also will be held on Zoom. The featured speaker will be Dr. Joe Howard of NASA, the lead optical designer for the James Webb Space Telescope. This should be fascinating. The TAS Club members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting in advance of the meeting. And the Saturday night public observing stations have begun again. There should have been one tonight, but it's been canceled because of the clouds that are coming in. Yeah, we got to see the ISS, but there's through some clouds, and there's big clouds off to our northwest coming in right now. One of the reasons why Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights was so that there would be an opportunity for live reports to come from the Texas Astronomical Society public observing session. So there's not one going on tonight, so no report. Otherwise, I might be reporting from there. Check the TAS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. Did I take long enough for you, Bill? I know sometimes you'll like me to take a little bit longer. This is KF5JJ, back to N5BB Net Control.
Well, thanks, Chaz. I had to rest my voice for a moment. I do appreciate it. Okay, the next item of business is National Space Society events and our activities. So I happen to be, this is N5BB, Bill, I happen to be the membership director of the National Space Society North Texas chapter. If you have any interest in the National Space Society, you can contact me at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE@BYROM.net, or N5BB@ARRL.net. And ask me your questions, and I'll be glad to answer them. The next National Space Society local chapter meeting, it's always on the second Sunday of the month. So it will be on Sunday afternoon, excuse me, June the 12th at 3:30 p.m. in Irving at Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Beltline and Highway 183. I don't yet have a description for the meeting topic. I don't know who our speaker will be. But we will talk about something there at that meeting. And then the big thing I have to discuss tonight about the National Space Society is the International Space Development Conference. This was held last weekend in Arlington, Virginia, which is real close to Washington, D.C. I was there, and it was great fun. And there are several members, ham radio operators here locally, who are members of our local chapter, including W5GUS and W7KYG, WB5OZL, and at least one other one. I can't think who else. But the only ham that was there from our local chapter was me in 5BB. It was the first time I'd been at one of these, and it was great fun. The conference started with a few events on Thursday afternoon, but most events were Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And there were a lot of things going on, a lot of speakers. And here is just a list of some of the best well-known speakers. I'm going to kind of roll through these, but you can kind of get an idea about the topics that were discussed. So, Kathy Luders, who is a NASA Associate Administrator for Space Operations. Lori Garver, the Earthrise Alliance CEO, and the previous NASA Deputy Administrator and National Space Society previous Executive Director. And she has a new book that has just come out. And this new book has not yet hit the shelves. But if you were at the meeting, you could buy a copy of the book. And so I have it at a discount. The name of the book is Escaping Gravity: My Quest to Transform NASA and Launch a New Space Age, by Lori Garver, former NASA Deputy Administrator. Forward by Walter Isaacson. Yes, that Walter Isaacson. And so far, I have read the first one or two chapters. And by the way, one of the little taglines on the front of it is by Neil deGrasse Tyson, suggesting it's interesting. And on the back of the dust cover, things from Elon Musk and Richard Branson, Miles O'Brien from PBS NewsHour, and other interesting people like Bill Nye. So anyway, interesting book. Again, I haven't read the whole thing yet, but it starts off as being very interesting about what she tried to do, and was pretty successful, partially successful at getting NASA to move toward commercial space working with commercial companies. This is in 5EV. So let me whiz through the rest of these, because there's a lot of them. Another speaker was Lars Hoffman. He is the Rocket Lab Senior VP for their global launch services. If you've heard anything about space things recently, Rocket Lab has been doing a lot of interesting stuff, launching from the U.S. and New Zealand, and they've got a lot of very exciting things they're planning on doing. Then Michelle Hanlon, who is the president of the National Space Society, she spoke. Mary Lynn Dittmar, she is the executive vice president of Axiom Space, and she talked about the fact that the Axiom orbital segment, this is something that's being built that will be attached to the International Space Station, and is designed so when the International Space Station is decommissioned about, who knows, maybe 2032, that this Axiom orbital segment can be separated and be a standalone space station. Woo! And then Rick Mastricino, Master Chio. He is the Northrop Grumman Director of Strategy and Business Development, Human Exploration and Operations Unit. Northrop Grumman has a lot to do with a lot of these things going on the moon and in low Earth orbit. Dennis Stone, you may have heard that name. He's a NASA Commercial Low Earth Orbit Development Program Project Executive. Janet Ivey, if you've been around space at all for a few years, you've heard of her. She's the CEO of Janet's Planet and the president of Explore Mars. Carlton Johnson, the chairman of the Board of Governors of National Space Society, who did sing the Carlton Battle Hymn, and is a really interesting fellow. It's very neat hearing him talk about growing up, and his teachers in New Jersey telling him, no, you're a black kid from the wrong side of the track in New Jersey. You don't want to go into aeronautics. And he went on to be a colonel in the Air Force and be involved with billion-dollar projects, and is now the chairman of the Board of Governors of the National Space Society. James Green spoke. He is a senior science advisor to NASA headquarters and gave a very interesting talk about a couple of different things, and it was very exciting hearing him talk. One of the keynote speakers starting off early on in the conference was Jaco Karas. He is the chief engineer of Ingenuity, the Mars helicopter. That's right. And if you look at him, he looks like he's about 19 years old. But he's been working on the project a long time, and he's at JPL in California. Really nice guy. So I've got pictures with him, along with his other people from our local chapter. Jaco Karas. And then another person gave a really interesting talk was Nikolai Joseph. He's from NASA's Office of Technology Policy and Strategy. He discussed the fact that NASA was looking at maybe revisiting solar power from space, where the thing people talk about the most is space collection of power in low Earth orbit, and then or maybe geosynchronous Earth orbit, and then beaming that via microwaves to the Earth. So it was very interesting hearing him talk about that. And then Timothy Alatorre, who is the Orbital Assembly Corporation co-founder, COO, and chair of the board. He talked about their very active project to build listen to this, a space station that will act as a space business park with hybrid gravity. So near the hub, you'll have near zero gravity. Out on the ends of the spoke, you will have 0.57, a little over half of Earth's gravity. That's right, an orbiting space station with artificial gravity. And they're working on it. And it may be up in just a few years. Very interesting talk. And they've got a lot of people interested in using their facility. All these companies building these new space stations have a lot of partner companies that want to be there, that want to participate and build things there. And then I forgot her name. There was a change in personnel here at the last minute, and so I didn't get her name. But a woman, an executive at Blue Origin, talked about the Orbital Reef space station project that Blue Origin is working on with their partners, Sierra Space, Boeing, and others. And they also are saying it's going to be a space business park. So there was a lot of things going on. There were 3 companies talking about commercially built space stations. And but I haven't talked about all the stuff involving going to the moon and Mars. There was a huge amount of discussion about that. Anyway, so lots going on with National Space Society. There is a Facebook page. Okay, this is N5BB Skynet. Do we have any late check-ins or any questions or comments? If so, please come now. This is N5BB.
Kilo Golf 5, Juliet uniform on Echo Link.
Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman on Echo Link.
Very good. Yeah, I just saw your note there on the text on Echolink, Billy. Sorry. So I recognize Anthony, KG5JPU, and Billy, KF5PDS. Do we have any additional check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB, Net Control. And JJ says on Echolink he wants an astronaut named Alice to walk on the moon. Well, okay, JJ. Okay, next, unfortunately, you get to hear me talk. I'm going to cut this way down because I talked so long about National Space Society and the International Space Development Conference. So I'm just going to give some sections of this article. This is the main article for the latest issue of Science magazine. It just came out today. I believe I received it. And the title is The Stargazers. The historic Maya, or maybe it's pronounced Maya, oriented their lives by the heavens. Today, their descendants and Western scholars team up to understand their sophisticated astronomy. And there is a publicly viewable link. You can probably get it by Googling, doing a web search for the Stargazers Science Magazine. The Stargazers Science Magazine. I think that's how you find it. But there is a long link here, which I sent to Tom. It's on the script here. I put it. Anyway, let me read a part of this, but it's way too long for me to read the whole thing. So I'm going to read some sections. Zunil, Guatemala. And by the way, I'm going to mispronounce these names, so just bear with me. As the sun climbs over hillside ceremony, Ixquic Paz Selanak invokes a day in the sacred calendar, Tzi, a day for seeking justice. Before she passes the microphone to the next speaker, she counts to 13 in Kaichi, an indigenous Maya language with more than 1 million present-day speakers in Guatemala's Central Highlands. A few dozen onlookers nod along, from grandmothers in traditional dresses to visiting school children shifting politely in their seats. Then the crowd joins a counterclockwise procession around a fire at the mouth of a cave, shuffle dancing to the beat of 3 men playing marimba while they toss offerings of candles, copal, and incense to the wind-licked flames. Paz Selenek, a lawyer, serves as a daykeeper for her community, which means she keeps track of a 260-day cycle, 20 days counted 13 times, that informs Maya ritual life. In April, archaeologists announced they had deciphered a 2,300-year-old inscription bearing a date in this same calendar format, proving it was in use millennia ago by the historic Maya, who lived across southeastern Mexico and Central America. In small villages like this one, the Maya calendar kept ticking through conquest and centuries of persecution. As recently in the 1990s, everything we did today would have been called witchcraft, says fellow daykeeper Roberto Paz Perez, Paz Selenak's father, after the day count concludes and everyone has enjoyed a lunch of tamales. This is N5BB Skynet. Roberto Paz Perez serves as a daykeeper in his Zonil community, keeping the sacred 260-day count. The 260-day calendar is a still-spinning engine within what was once a much larger machine of Maya knowledge, a vast corpus of written, quantitative indigenous science that broke down the natural world and human existence into interlocking, gear-like cycles of days. In its service, Maya astronomers describe the movements of the sun, moon, and planets with world-leading precision. For example, tracking the waxing and waning of the moon to the half minute. In the 19th century, Western science belatedly began to comprehend the sophistication of Maya knowledge, recognizing that a table of dates in a rare surviving Maya text tracked the movements of Venus in the 260-day calendar. That discovery, or rediscovery, set off a still ongoing wave of research into Maya astronomy. Researchers scoured archaeological sites and sifted through Mayan script, looking for references to the cosmos. Hugely popular, the field also spawned a fringe of New Age groups, doomsday cultists, and the racist insinuation that the Maya must have had help from alien visitors. In the past few years, slowly converging lines of evidence have been restoring the clearest picture yet of the stargazing knowledge European colonizers fought so hard to scrub away. LiDAR surveys have identified vast ceremonial complexes buried under jungle and dirt, many of which appear to be oriented to astronomical phenomena. Archaeologists have excavated what looks like an astronomer's workshop and identified images which may depict individual astronomers. Some Western scholars also include today's Maya as collaborators, not just anthropological informants. They seek insight into the worldview that drove Maya astronomy, to learn not only what the ancient stargazers did, but why. This is N5BB Skynet. And some present-day Maya hope that collaborations can help recover their heritage. In Zonil, members of the Paz Selenek family have begun to search for fragments of the old sky knowledge in surrounding communities. It's more than just wanting the information, says Paz Selenek's brother, Tepo Paz Selenek, a graphic designer and also a daykeeper. We say you're waking up something that has been sleeping for a long time, and you have to do so with care. After the Spanish arrived in the 1500s, the conquerors set out to extirpate Maya knowledge and culture. Although the Spanish were aware of some of the intricacies of Maya culture, including the 260-day calendar, priests burned Maya text, among them accordion-folded books of bark paper called cortices, painted densely with illustrations and hieroglyphics. We found a large number of books, wrote a priest in Yucatan, as they contain nothing in which there were not to be seen superstition and lies of the devil. We burned them all, which they regretted to an amazing degree, and which caused them much affliction. Only 4 looted pre-colonial volumes surfaced later, all in foreign cities with vague chains of custody. This is N5BB, Skynet net control. By the end of the 19th century, one codex was in a library in Dresden, where it fell into the hands of a German librarian and hobbyist mathematician named Ernst Fostermann. He couldn't puzzle out the hieroglyphs, but he deciphered numbers written in a table. These were dates in the 260-day sacred cycle, Fostermann saw, and based on the intervals of time between the dates, the table had to be a guide to the motions of the planet Venus, which cycles through a 584-day, 4-part dance in which it appears as the morning star, vanishes from the sky, reappears as the evening star, and vanishes once more. Since then, researchers studying the codices and stone inscriptions at archaeological sites have recognized that pre-colonial Maya clocked motions of the sun, moon, and likely Mars with sophisticated algorithms, that they likely aligned buildings to point at particular sunrises, and that they inscribed celestial context, such as phase of the moon, into historical record. I'm going to skip now. One early and overreaching goal was to meter the flow of time. The first inscriptions of the 260-day cycle, for example, date to the early Ibuk. This is like 3,000 years ago. No one agrees on the precise significance of the sacred count. It could be the approximate interval between a missed period and childbirth, how long it takes maize to grow, or the product of 20, the finger plus toe base of Maya math, and 13, another common Maya number, that could itself be justified by the number of days between a first crescent and a full moon. Around this time, the early Maya invented a year-long solar calendar that would have been helpful for seasonal tasks such as planting corn. By 2,000 years ago, they had begun to track a third calendar called the long count, a cumulative ongoing record of days elapsed since the calendar's putative zero date in 3114 BCE. That would enable Maya scribes to scan back through centuries of historical events on the ground and in the sky. This is N5BB, Skynet. Archaeologists think all these ideas and their connections to celestial movements may be enshrined in the crumbled architecture of the Maya world. I'm going to skip now. So they're talking about scanning 71 plazas scattered through Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize with surveying equipment or with LIDAR, a laser technology sensitive to the faint footprints of the ruins now buried under forest and earth. So they're scanning through a lot of these old sites. There's many of them, looking for their orientation and connections to astronomy. For instance, one of these is a vast rectangular platform with 20 sub-platforms around its edges that stretched 1.4 kilometers in Tabasco, Mexico. The structure dates back to between 1,800 BCE. At the complex's very center, there's the raised outlines of the period and platform E-group layout, thought to be a solar marker. They've also identified 478 smaller rectangular complexes of similar age scattered across Veracruz and Tabasco. Again, many of these are aligned apparently to solar things related to solar events. Again, I'm going to skip a lot because this is a long article. And in a book published in March, Gerardo Aldana, a Maya scholar at the University of California, Santa Barbara, builds a case. Oh, by the way, there's an additional set of correction factors in the Dresden Codex. This is this old document from the Maya that was moved to Germany. It helps correct for how the cycle slips for a few days per century. And this Maya scholar at University of California, Santa Barbara, builds a case the astronomer who devised the correction for the Venus predictions was a woman working around 900 CE, the Christian era. He points to a figure depicted in a carving on a structure interpreted as a Venus observatory in Chichen Itza, who wears a long skirt and a feathered serpent headdress. Iconography imported from central Mexico and associated with Venus that took over in that city around the time. And another mural, a similarly dressed figure with breasts, walks in a massive procession rich with feathered serpent ideology. Again, there's lots and lots of detail, much of which has been discovered here in the last decade. So a lot of stuff going on with the research recently. So they're talking about a lot of facades on some buildings and some sculptures with more than 350 glyphs signifying Venus or star. And this time the number 8 is etched above their eyes, okay? Given that it takes Venus 8 years to go through 5 cycles, this structure practically screams its affiliation with the planet Venus. Again, I'm going to skip down a little further. Ancient sites like Uxmal, this woman's grandmother has said, were not places very worthy to visit. They were sacred ancestral homes to caretaker entities who would need to grant permission. But much later in life, she balanced that warning with the desire to see a place at the heart of her grandmother's stories. Now she has long since crossed another threshold, going from receiving oral tradition to passing it forward. What her grandmother emphasized most about the train tracks was the need to keep passing knowledge down to her children. Anyway, I'm sorry, I skipped a lot of that. Anyway, very interesting article about the Maya, their complex calendars, their interest in Venus and many other planets and the sun, and very advanced astronomy going back as much as 3,000 years, and a lot of advanced recent research on this in the last decade. Okay, end of that. This is Skynet, N5BB net control. Do we have any late check-ins?
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
W5 BLT Whiskey 5 Bacon Lettuce Tomato Bill Carlin.
Okay, I recognize KB9SOK, Sean. W5BLT, hello, Bill. Do we have any other check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB. Okay, let's move ahead then. It's time for What's Up with Chaz, KF5JHA. Take it away, Chaz. This is N5BB, Skynet.
Thank you, Bill. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up. Slide Master, that was slide number 1. Slide number 2, please. So on May the 30th, the moon was new. The current phase of the moon is a waxing crescent. On June the 1st, the moon was at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,192 kilometers. On June the 7th, the moon will be at its first quarter. On June the 14th, the moon is full. On June the 14th, also on June the 14th, the moon is at perigee, which is some point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 357,432 kilometers. On June the 20th, the moon is at its third quarter phase. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. On June the 11th, the planets Venus and Uranus will only be a degree and a half apart in the eastern morning sky. In this conjunction, you probably will need to use a telescope or at least a good pair of binoculars in order to spot the planet Uranus. Slide Master, slide number 4. The June Lyrid meteor shower peaks on the night of June the 16th, 17th, and is estimated to have about 20 or sometimes more meteors per hour. The best time to observe meteors is usually the hour before dawn in the early morning. As I always do, I suggest visiting one of the 80 Texas state parks or wildlife refuges where you can camp, and usually most of them are far away from the city lights. Slide Master, slide number 5, please. Saturn and the moon will be in conjunction on June the 18th in the early morning southern sky. Slide Master, slide 6. On June the 21st, Jupiter and the moon will be in conjunction in the early morning southeastern sky, with Mars not too far away. Also on June 21st at 4:14 a.m. Central Daylight Time is the moment of summer solstice for the northern hemisphere. More on that next week. Didn't have a slide for that this week. Slide Master, slide number 7. On the very next morning of June the 22nd, Mars and the moon are in conjunction in the early morning southeastern sky, and Jupiter is close by. And Slide Master, slide number 8. On June 22nd as well, in the low early morning sky, you can also observe Venus and the Pleiades next to each other. Wow, a lot of things are going on toward the end of June, just like there was in the end of May. And I am KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 9. Once again, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas will have its next club meeting on Friday, June the 24th at 7:30 p.m. The meeting will be in person as well as on Zoom. Featured speaker will be Dr. Joe Howard from NASA, the lead optical designer for the James Webb Space Telescope. Should be interesting. And the Saturday night public observing stations have begun again. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights so that there would be an opportunity for live reports from the TASS public observing sessions. And it didn't happen tonight because of the clouds moving in. For more information, go to texasastro.org for up-to-date information about meetings and public observing stations. Slide Master, slide number 10. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need a fill on the information? Come now with your call sign if you have a question. hey, hearing none, slide number 11, please. So as the moon waned at the end of May, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live, and pray for the people of Ukraine and Uvalde. Until next week, actually, I'll be doing another segment in Skynet in just a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5, JHA, back to our net control, N5BB. It's yours, Bill.
Cool, thank you, Chaz. I'll grab it since you just threw it back at me and ask if there's any late check-ins to Skynet. If so, please come now. This is N5BB. Next, we have Kelly. Kelly at K5KDX is going to talk about space exploration and space history. I think this is going to be about the James Webb Space Telescope. Go right ahead, Kelly. This is N5BB.
This is K5KT. Color images in spectral 12, 2022. The largest and most complex observatory. What Webb should look at first. All for astronomers and the
Tom, if you're listening, Kelly's audio is coming out over Echolink, but it's not getting through the into the repeater on your end there, N5BB.
Yeah, I know, Bill. I need more audio out of her. It's just really faint, so it's having a hard time pulling in.
Kelly, is there anything you can do to increase your audio level? Because we're not hearing very much at all. We're getting very, very little of what you're saying. This is N5BB.
any better at all?
Well, it's still kind of low. You know, if there's anything you can do to, you know, get right down the microphone or increase the gain more, try it again and we'll see, because we've heard nothing of what you said so far. N5BB. Tell you what, Kelly, I think what I'm going to try is, if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead to the next section of the net, and maybe by the end of the net, if you're able to somehow increase your audio, we'll let you come back. So we'd love to hear what you have there, but right now it's coming out on Echolink, but it's not coming out through the repeater, and Tom says the problem is the audio just isn't high enough. So if you don't mind, Kelly, let's just hold off till later in the net. Will that work for you?
going to read it, so for now.
Okay. Tom, did you want to try reading it in 5BB?
Yeah, I hate to steal Kelly's thunder, but yeah, I can go ahead and read it.
You're right ahead.
All right, this is courtesy of Kelly, K5KTX. This is the first time ever I think I've heard the audio that low, so something funny happened, but generally her audio is perfect. So here we go. Slide 1, if you're watching on the video, it says NASA's James Webb Space Telescope released its first full-color images and spectroscopic data on July 12, 2022. It's the largest and most complex observatory ever launched into space. Webb has been going through a 6-month period of preparation before it begin its science work, calibrating its instruments to its space environment and aligning its mirrors. This careful process, not to mention years of new technology development and mission planning, has built up the first images and data, the demonstration of the Webb at full power, ready to begin its science mission and unfold the infrared universe. Deciding what Webb should look at first has been a project more than 5 years in the making, undertaken by the international partnership between NASA, European Space Agency, Canadian Space Agency, and the Science Telescope Science Institute, SCI, in Baltimore, home to Webb's science and mission operations. They are sure to deliver a long-awaited wow for astronomers and the public. Once each of Webb's instruments have been calibrated, tested, and given the green light by its science and engineering teams, the first images and spectroscopic observations will be made. The team will proceed through a list of targets that have been pre-selected and prioritized by an international committee to exercise Webb's powerful capabilities. Then the production team will receive the data from Webb's instrument scientists and process it through images for astronomers and the public. While careful planning for Webb's first full-color images have been underway for some time, the new telescope is so powerful that it's difficult to predict exactly how the first images will look. Early alignment imagery has already demonstrated the unprecedented sharpness of Webb's infrared view. However, these new images will be the first in full color and the first to showcase Webb's full scientific capabilities. In addition to imagery, Webb will be capturing spectroscopic data, detailed information astronomers can read in light. The first image packages of materials will highlight the science themes that have inspired the mission and will be the focus of its work: the early universe, the evolution of galaxies through time, the life cycle of stars and other worlds. All of Webb's commissioning data, the data taken while aligning the telescope and preparing the instruments, will be made publicly available. So what's next? Science. After comparing its first images, Webb's scientific observations will begin continuing to explore the mission's key science themes. Teams have already applied through a competitive process for the time to use the telescope in what astronomers call its first cycle or first year of observations. Observations are carefully scheduled to make the most efficient use of the telescope's time. These observations will mark the official beginning of Webb's general science operations, the work it was designed to do. Astronomers will use Webb to observe the infrared universe, analyze the data collected, and publish scientific papers for their discoveries. Beyond what is already planned for Webb, there are the unexpected discoveries astronomers can't anticipate. One example, in 1990, when the Hubble Space Telescope launched, dark energy was completely unknown. Now it is one of the most exciting areas of astrophysics. What will Webb discover? Now on to space and NASA history. Space history this week. On March 30th, the Mariner 9 probe. In 1971, the Mariner 9 probe launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida, following Mariner's 8 failed attempt or launch 22 days earlier. Mariner 9 became the first mission to successfully orbit Mars. 3 previous Mariner missions had flown by Mars and had fed back a limited amount of data. Getting into orbit around Mars was considerably more challenging, but allowed for far greater analysis. Mariner 9 arrived in the sky above Mars during a massive planet-wide dust storm that prevented quality images from being taken. After a month, the storm subsided and Mariner 9 began mapping the surface. Its findings were groundbreaking. The cartography revealed ancient riverbeds, massive volcanoes, and a 3,000-mile-long canyon. Mars's moons, Phobos and Deimos, were also photographed at close range for the first time. After one bountiful year in orbit, contact was lost with Mariner 9, and it remains in a decaying orbit around Mars. On May 31st, 2015, the Cassini spacecraft made its final flyby of Mars' non-spherical moon, Hyperion, which is the largest of Saturn's irregular potato-shaped moons. It is particularly unique because of its low density and sponge-like appearance. After leaving Hyperion, Cassini visited other moons before beginning its grand finale, a series of dramatic dives between Saturn and its rings. On June 1st, 2011, Space Shuttle Endeavour landed for its final time at 2:34 a.m. Eastern Time at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. On board was the crew of mission STS-134, returning after completing a 14-day mission to deliver the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer, or AMS, as well as spare parts to the International Space Station. Over the course of 25 missions, Endeavour spent a total of 299 days in space, orbited Earth 4,671 times, and traveled over 122.8 million miles. Although Endeavour is retired, it continues to inspire. Today you can visit the orbiter up close at the California Space Center in Los Angeles. On June 2nd, 1966, Surveyor 1 landed on the moon. It was NASA's first lunar soft lander in an uncrewed Surveyor program. This lunar lander gathered data about the lunar surface that would be needed for the crewed Apollo moon landings that began in 1969. The successful soft landing of Surveyor 1 in the Ocean of Storms was the first by an American space probe on any extraterrestrial body, occurring on the first attempt and just 4 months after the first moon landing by the Soviet Union's Luna 9 probe. Surveyor 1 was launched May 30th, 1966 from the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. Surveyor 1 transmitted 11,237 still photos of the lunar surface to the Earth by using a television camera and a sophisticated radio telemetry system. On this date, in 1977, 14 delegates from nations from around the world, as well as the United Nations Secretary General Kurt Waldheim, recorded greetings for the Voyager space probe's golden records. These gold-plated copper records contained information on Earth's multitude of cultures so that any being who finds the records can play them. In total, 12 records were made, 2 of which were placed on Voyagers 1 and 2. Both probes launched a month apart in 1977. In addition to the delegates' messages, the golden records contain greetings in 55 dialects, 54 human languages, and a humpback whale, as well as images from Earth and instructions on how to play the records. They also contain samples of the isotope uranium-238, enabling future spacefarers to measure the radioactive decay and determine the age of the records. On June 3rd, 1965, Gemini 4 astronauts James McDivitt and Ed White were launched into space. Later that same day, White became the first American to perform a spacewalk. For 23 minutes, White floated and maneuvered himself around while attached to the spacecraft by a 25-foot umbilical tether line. 4 days of Gemini 4 would not only come close to the Russian record, but also almost double NASA's astronauts' previous time in space. Before June 1965, the longest American space flight was Gordon Cooper's 34 hours in space during May 1963 aboard Mercury 9. Then on June 3rd, 2014, the Curiosity rover witnessed Mercury passing in front of the Sun. This was the first time the Mercury transit was photographed from another planet. On June 4th, 1998, STS-91 Discovery made the final space shuttle mission to dock with the Russian Mir space station. Commander Charlie Precourt, pilot Don Gorey, mission specialist Wendy Lawrence, Franklin Chang Diaz, Janet Kavandi, and Russian cosmonaut Valery Viktorovich Rumunin were on board. Astronaut Andy Thomas, who had spent 130 days on Mir, joined the crew for the return trip to Earth. 1,100 pounds of water were transferred to the station, and long-term U.S. experiments had been aboard Mir were transferred to Discovery. And then finally, birthdays. We have on May 30th, 1958, Michael Lopez Alegria, STS-75, 92, 113, and Expedition 14. April 2022, SpaceX, the Axiom mission, or AX-1, he flew on. On June 2nd, 1930, Pete Conrad, who was on Gemini 5, 11, Apollo 12, and Skylab 2. June 2nd, 1956, Mark Polanski, STS-98, 116, and 127. June 4th, 1965, Shannon Walker, Expedition 2425, she's SpaceX Crew 1, and Expedition 64 and 65. And then finally on June 4th, 1967, Shane Kimbrough for STS-126, Expedition 4950, SpaceX Crew 2, which was ultimately Expedition 65 and 66. And that's it from Miss Kelly, K5KTX, as read by me, KE5ICX. Back to net control.
Thank you very much, Tom. And Kelly, we're sorry, but the Echolink system just doesn't want to think that you're talking because it requires plenty of audio level from the Echolink end, which is so annoying. Anyway, now let's move ahead to the Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Chaz, KF5JHA. We're down near the end of the net, Chaz. Go right ahead with Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week and keep it quick. N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. I've done some chopping here, so I should be okay, I hope. I can get it through in about 4 minutes, which will only put us a minute or so behind ending. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Oh, this is slide number 12, please. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 till May of 2019 with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Libra the Scales. Now, Libra is a zodiacal constellation. It's the only member of the zodiac that depicts an inanimate object. The concept of a balance scale in the sky originates from the equal lengths of day and night at the equinox. 2,000 years ago, the September equinox was in what we now call Libra, so the stars in that part of the sky came to be associated with a balance of scales. Due to a precession of equinox, the sun is in September, equinox today is in Virgo. Slide number 13, please. Now, I've cut the number of jokes in half. I'm sorry, you'll just have to live with that. First one, how does the psychic achieve a work-life balance? Because we're talking about balance with scales, right? Oh, by finding a happy medium, because they're a psychic, a happy medium. Bill, N5BB, kept trying to balance mints on his foot. I didn't know if you knew that or not. Well, it turns out that he was playing tic-tac-toe. Oh, come on, that was funny, wasn't it? Okay. A wife saw her husband sucking in his stomach while standing on the
completely operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
And he said, yes, it does. I can read the numbers now. Slide number 14, please. Zupanel ganubi, I love that name, is known as the Southern Claw, and Zupanel shamali is known as the Northern Claw. Slide number 15, please. NGC 5897 is a globular cluster and also known as the ghost globular cluster because of how faint it is. In their book, The Night Sky Observer's Guide, George Keppel and Glenn Sander noted that an 8 to 10 inch telescope, this cluster has a diffuse low surface brightness halo with a poorly concentrated center. Slide master, slide number 16, please. PK 342 plus 27.1 is actually a planetary nebula. As a nebula itself, initially at low power, it looks just like a fainter member of a double star. Increasing magnification shows it to be an extended object, albeit a very small one. At 126 power and an 8-inch telescope, the outer edges of the nebula appear to be somewhat fuzzy. Slide master, slide number 17. NGC 5878 is a spiral galaxy, magnitude 12.5. So it's almost at the limit of an 8-inch telescope. Averted vision, we've talked about that before, is a must. It appears as an elongated faint glow along a north-south axis. Slide master, slide number 18. ARP 254 is a challenge object. According to the book of ARP Atlas of Peculiar Galaxies, NGC 5917, as it's also known, has a faint companion galaxy known as MCG-1-39-3 and a tenuous bridge, presumably of stars, gas, and dust that connects between them. And this is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 19. There are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Libra. I've given you just a sampling of them. The Astronomical League has about 73 different observing programs. Most have about 100 objects. So if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program in a month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide master, slide number 20, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Libra the Scales. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson, Dennis Harwell for their research on words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Next time I'll take a look at two constellations, Boötes, the Shepherd, and Corona Borealis, the Northern Crown. And this is KF5 JHA saying good night, 73, and sending this back to N5BB Bill, the net control.
Okay, very good, Chaz. We're running out of time. Tom, as far as the space launches for the week, the exciting ones I know about are the Long March 2F launch from China that was supposed to launch with 3 Chinese astronauts to rendezvous and dock with a Chinese space station in low Earth orbit. It was supposed to launch about 45 minutes ago, and I don't know if it actually got off. I can't find that on the internet right now. And Tom, the other thing I could see, which looks like the only hot thing really happening, is this the coming. Well, this is coming up in over a week. The Rocket Lab NASA capstone launch is slated for launch finally, on the 13th of June, which is over a week from now. And I think there's something launching from Blue Origin, if that hasn't already gone up. So, Tom, can you compress all the rocket launches into a real quick comment? N5BB.
Bill, I think you covered the highlights, so I'll just turn it back to you. KE5ICX.
What a deal. Brenda, can you, I know we ran out of time. Is there anything you can give us super quick about why Uranus and Neptune have different colors? WB50ZL and 5BB.
This is WB50ZL. Well, I could hold this until next week, and that'll be a hook to get everybody to come back.
Let's do that, because I want to hear about that one. That sounds interesting. Okay. So, do we have any other last-minute check-ins or items for the net before we close? Because it's past closing time. The bar is closed. Any last comments or questions before I close the net? This is N5BB. Or any last check-ins? N5BB, Skynet, last call.
KG5APL.
Close check-in.
Okay, we got two stations I couldn't understand. I think the first was KG5APL. Who is the other station?
K1GBD.
Okay, were you just checking, Guy, or do you have anything for the net?
Oh, yeah, just checking in. No comments.
Okay, KG5APL. Go ahead, Patrick.
Hey, this is KG5APL. Just wanted to say real quick, you had talked about the Chinese space stations. Yes, that launch went off about 40 minutes ago. They're in orbit, and they're doing their thing. The solar panels are deployed. So that's it. KG5APL.
Well, thank you very much. I just wasn't able to quickly find that in real time here. So I appreciate knowing that. You know, we kind of forget about it, but there is a Chinese space station in LEO. And they're sending multiple astronauts up there. So that's actually pretty exciting if you think about it. We've now got 2 manned space stations in orbit. Okay. Now, let's close this net. Tonight we had 33 hams. Guy, you made it 33. We had 33 hams participating on the air and on Echolink. Thanks to all of you who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration on this net. The sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations. If you're interested, send an email to nets@w5sc.org. There's things about this topic on Facebook and Twitter and everything. Go to w5sc.org and you can figure out where to get to those research or sources. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BB closing a net at 10:37 p.m. local time. Good evening, everybody. Good night. I'll turn over to Tom to talk about Afterglow. N5BB clear.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you for doing the net this evening. And this is KE5ICX. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Go powder your noses, do the things you need to do, and we'll come back and we'll be talking about New Trek, which would be Star Trek Beyond. Now, if you saw just Star Trek, New Trek, lots of Trek, I guess, you can talk about that too. Don't worry, we'll have plenty of things to discuss. So come on back. New Trek tonight, 5 minutes from now. See you then. This is KE5ICX.
I'm sorry, Tom. I'll have to miss it tonight. I just didn't have any time at all. I had 2 different events today, both of which were hours long. One of them was the North Texas Renewable Energy Group, or Solar Energy Group, at Vickery Park Library in Dallas. And the next one was a neighborhood block party, yearly summer block party, where I got to tell people about my new house. So that was exciting. And that used up all my time, so I didn't have time to look at anything. And I was way too busy last week. And you kept changing which movie we were going to see. Anyway, maybe next week I'll have time to watch the movie for Afterglow. Maybe. I'm just too busy now. See ya. Good night. In 5BB clear. Oh, and by the way, it was really exciting a week ago being at the International Space Development Conference and able to talk with the chief technologist for the Mars helicopter about testing it and thinking it would work, and then them actually seeing it fly on Mars for the first time and then repeated times. They were so excited. You can't imagine how excited their team was when that darn little Ingenuity helicopter kept on flying. So talk about somebody that was pleased. I am really gone now in 5BB clear. Good evening.
Okay, it's been about 5 minutes. I guess we can get started. This is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray. My name's Tom. You heard me on earlier. But now it's time for the Afterglow Movie Net. So what do we do on the Afterglow Movie Net? If you were listening for the first time, I'll tell you. If you're not listening for the first time, just turn the audio down for about 2 minutes. So what we do is we talk about movies. Sometimes they're good movies, sometimes they're bad movies. Nearly always science fiction films. And we've been doing this for, I don't know, what, 6 years, 7 years, something like that. So the likelihood you don't know about this is probably remote. You're probably from outside the area and just moved here or driving through. Doesn't matter. It's okay. So we watch a movie that we determined ahead of time. In this case, we had to make some quick moves. We were going to watch Star Trek, the new Trek film from 2009, but it was pulled because June 1st came along and they removed it. However, Star Trek Beyond, the next best thing I could find online, was still available. So we quickly switched it to Star Trek Beyond, yet another entry in the new Trek universe. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So what are the rules of the game? Pretty simple. We watch the movie, and I've got information on where you can find that. It's Afterglow Movie. By the way, if anybody did not get the update and they sent me the information, please let me know this evening. I got a strange response, but it wasn't from any of the new people as far as email sent out. But if it was indeed you, whoever you happen to be, let me know, and I will put you on the list this evening. So we talk about the plot, then we talk about the characterization and actors, and then we go in for a third round, which we just talk about anything we want. Usually it's music, special effects, or something we may have forgotten in the previous rounds that other people have reminded us about the movie. But first, what I will do before check-ins is give you a plot synopsis. This comes from Wikipedia. So here we go. So the plot is, Federation starship USS Enterprise arrives at Starbase Yorktown for a resupply and shore leave for its crew. Struggling to find meaning in their exploration, Captain James P. Kirker has applied for promotion to Vice Admiral. He recommends Spock as his replacement. Meanwhile, Hikaru Sulu reunites with his family. Montgomery Scott works to keep the ship operational, and Spock and Naoya Uhura have ended their relationship. Spock also receives word from New Vulcan that Ambassador Spock has died. Enterprise is dispatched on a rescue mission after an escape pod drifts out of a nearby uncharted nebula. Its occupant, Kalara, claims her ship is stranded on Altamid, a planet in the nebula. Upon arrival, a massive swarm of small ships ambushes the Enterprise and quickly tears it apart. The swarm's leader, Krall, and his crew board the crippled Enterprise, capture and kill many of its crew members in an attempt to capture the Abernath, a relic recovered during a recent mission. Kirk orders the crew to abandon ship, leaving the disintegrating Enterprise saucer section to crash on Ultimate. On the planet, Krall captures Sulu, Uhura, and other survivors. Kirk and Pavel Chekhov, accompanied by Kalara, locate the Enterprise saucer section. Knowing that Kalara knew they would be attacked, Kirk tricks her into revealing herself as Krall's spy. She is killed when Kirk and Chekhov escape Krall's soldiers and flip the Enterprise saucer, crushing her. Elsewhere on the planet, Dr. Leonard McCoy and a wounded Spock search for other survivors. Kirk tells McCoy that he ended his relationship with Uhura as leaving Starfleet to help the Vulcan survivors and continue the late Ambassador Spock's work. Jayla, a scavenger who previously escaped Krall's encampment where her father was killed, rescues Scott and takes him to her makeshift home. that grounded USS Franklin, an early Starfleet vessel reported missing over a century earlier. Scott is reunited with Kirk, Chekhov, McCoy, and Spock. Krall coerces the captive Enterprise crew to hand over the Albernath and then uses it to complete an ancient bioweapon. The weapon complete, Krall intends to kill Yorktown's inhabitants and then use the base to attack the United Federation of Planets. Kirk and the others free the crew as Krall launches into space with the bioweapon leading his drones to the Yorktown. The Enterprise survivors power up the Franklin and launch her in pursuit of Krall, theorizing the swarm's system may be vulnerable to high frequencies such as VHF or radio. They jam and destroy the swarm by broadcasting the song Sabotage by the Beastie Boys. Krall is chased by the Franklin through Yorktown. Uhura, Kirk, and Scotty discover that the Franklin's logs that Krall is actually Balthasar Edison, Franklin's former captain. A pre-Federation human soldier, Edison rejected the Federation's principles of unity and cooperation with former enemies like the Zindi and the Romulans. When he and his crew are stranded by Ultramid by a wormhole, the survivors use the extinct natives' technology to prolong their lives at the cost of others. A repurposed and ancient race's dormant mining drone workers into the swarm, thinking the Federation had abandoned them. Edison planned to destroy the Federation and resume galactic conflict. Kirk pursues Edison into Yorktown's ventilation system, where Edison activates the bioweapon. Before it can spread, Kirk ejects it, and Edison into space, where the weapon disintegrates Edison. Using commandeered alien ship, Spock and McCoy save Kirk moments before he is also blown into space. In the aftermath, Commodore Perez closes the files of Captain Edison and the USS Franklin crew. Though offered the promotion to Vice Admiral, Kirk decides to remain as captain. Spock chooses to remain in Starfleet and renews his relationship with Uhura. On Kirk's recommendation, Jayla is accepted into Starfleet Academy. As the crew celebrates Kirk's birthday, they watch the construction of their new ship, the USS Enterprise A, and resume their mission. No, they don't. That was the last movie, and they probably won't be doing any others. Oh, well. So that's it. Chris Pine, Zachary Quinto, Carl Urban, Zoe Salanda, Simon Pegg, John Chow, Aston Yeltsin, Idris, and some other people. We're in this film. Now that you've heard the lowdown, we'll go ahead and get started. Remember, we'll open this one up since we had some confusion about the movie. If you saw Star Trek Beyond, that's fine. If not, check in anyway. We'll discuss it. So I'm going to take your call sign, your name, and did you see Star Trek Beyond? Please come now.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony in Dallas. I did not see the movie, so I will probably not have much to say.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zoo, Whiskey, J. Near Wedford. Yes, I saw it.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango Sierra Kilo, Burl in Dallas. I did see the movie.
Okay, well, it's kind of a meager opening. We'll see what we get. NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. He did not see the movie. He may or may not participate. We'll find out. KG5BZW, Jay, near Rutherford. Yep, he saw it. KF5TSK, Burl, he's back. Over in Dallas. Yep, he saw the movie. Additional check-ins, please come down.
November 2, India Papa, Ken. I saw the movie. Long time ago. I saw the movie.
Okay, there was a double. I did get Ken, N2 VIP. Yep, he saw the movie, and then someone else saw the movie. Who was that?
Sorry about that. Tom, Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato. W5BLT, Bill. I saw the movie twice.
Okay, actually, I think there was on the first, on that previous round, there was a triple because somebody else doubled with you, Bill, but I got you. W5BLT, I got you checked in, and third time's the charm. That other person, please come now.
WB50ZL, this is Brenda. I saw the movie.
Very good, we got you. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda, she did see the movie. Any additional check-ins, please come now. All right, there could be some activity over on the traffic net over on 7-2, so I'm sure there'll be some latecomers showing up in a bit. All right, well, let me go ahead and we'll ask Tony this one and only time. So, Tony, have you seen any of the new Trek? Have you seen, I think you did see Strange New Worlds, or maybe you didn't, but have you seen any of the movies? I guess that would be Star Trek Beyond, and Star Trek something, I can't remember, the Wrath of Khan all over again. Have you seen any of those three movies, and not the one with Ricardo Montalban?
Well, hey, Tom, thank you. I did watch that Star Trek TV episode that we discussed in a previous net, and I'm not even sure how to define, what's current and what's not. I know there were those, I guess, J.J. Abrams movies or something, which I didn't see. So no, that TV episode we watched a few weeks ago has been the only new Star Trek thing I have seen in many years. Not since, the days of Jean-Luc Picard. But I will be listening and taking notes, and perhaps I will be more motivated or more sore tomorrow, NT5TM.
How interesting that you would say that. J.J. Abrams has been fingered as the guy that's destroyed space both on Star Trek and Star Wars, so there's some very heated discussion about his work on both series. I don't know. I don't think it's all that bad. I kind of enjoyed some of the films. This was not my favorite out of the trilogy, but it was okay. All right, well, let's go ahead and ask some folks who have seen it, which is the next on the list would be KG5BZW. Jay, what did you think about the plot for Star Trek Beyond from 2016, I think? Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
This is KG5BZW. And, there is something odd with echoing. I was talking normally into my phone, so please look into that. But anyway, that's no for now. Okay, I'll just use radio here. What about this film? It's kind of not Star Trek, but it was fun regardless, I thought, even though it had its stupid point. Yes, you mentioned the radio point, but even like the very end where they conveniently forget they have teleporters for the vents. I guess we're supposed to imagine that the gravity slipstreams are somehow preventing that or something. I don't know. Better than that, Overall, I enjoyed it the first time I saw it. I enjoyed it last night when I saw it. So, what's to say? It had some points to it, but it dug into the characters a little bit. It referred to the original series very weirdly, but understandably, because since, Leonard Nimoy was in the 2009, double Spock. Anyway, I'd say I don't know if I like it better than if this is a favorite of the three or least favorite or what. The first one is just so much like Star Wars. It's the original series that is just kind of lame. But this one, it's an action flick. Let's just say it's Star Trek with an action flick, which it's not like it hasn't been done before with the Borg on Star Trek Next Generation. I like that movie too. It's like a lot of action flicks. You have to kind of be a little bit extra forgiving. And I want to say there's more good points, but I'm like, how do I define them as good and what's bad and what's good? Because they're bad points too. I don't know. I just kind of know I enjoyed it. So, I kind of sucks being the first one here. So, I don't have anybody else to get ideas off of. But anyway, I'm running on fumes here on this round. I'll be back. I'm not saying I'm leaving. Just can't think of anything else. All right. This is KU5BCW. Back to net.
That's okay, Jay. That's sometimes how things happen. So don't worry about it. We'll this whole alternate thing, which I'll talk about on my round, on my turn, makes things rather confusing. Next up is KF5 TSK Burl in Dallas. Burl, welcome back. And what did you think of the plot for Star Trek Beyond from KE5ICX?
This is KF5 TSK. I didn't really find anything really special in the plot. I thought some of the battle scenes seemed to be prolonged. It's like, how many times can you beat something or burn it up or whatever? The closed captioning, I felt was irritating. It was like, we're going to tell you that was a growl. We're going to tell you that that was a grunt. We're going to tell you that this was when I was like, why can't I hear it? Why do you need to tell me? The acting really made the movie. I didn't really see anything that was really special or different or new. But, just looking at the characters, that really made the movie. KFI TSK back to net.
Very good. Thank you, Pearl. It's funny you should mention that because I do watch most movies with the captioning on because I have a hard time understanding what they're saying, and that's a common beef with people today when it comes to watching films. Maybe it's our age. I don't know, but it's really difficult to understand. So I do have a tendency to turn on the closed captioning so I know what the heck they're saying. British films are like that too. because they use a different word for everything. It's hard to understand. But yeah, I noticed that as well. Some of the overly descriptive parts weren't really all that necessary, but there you have it. All right. Next is Ken, N2 VIP. Welcome back, Ken. What did you think about the plot for Star Trek Beyond from KE5ICX?
N2 VIP. I liked the movie. I hadn't seen it for a while. But check me. Is this the one where the spaceship magically comes out of the water and flies away? If this is that one, I hate that device where they hide spaceships in water. Aside from that, I always enjoy the Star Trek movies. They're popcorn fodder for me. So back to the net.
Well, Ken, I am afraid to tell you that was actually the second film whose name escapes me right now. I'm sure somebody will remember. You know, as the super Star Trek fan that I am, I can't even remember the titles of the movies. You can imagine my overall feelings of the new Trek. I can't recall the name, but there is the Franklin does come out of water, but it's not the one you're thinking of. It actually ends up in the wake on the Yorktown. So, but that's a whole nother thing. Okay. Next is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, go ahead with your thoughts on the plot for Star Trek Beyond from KE5ICX.
W5BLT. Well, I think it was okay. I'm not a big fan of J.J. Abrams and anything. I did check my science brain at the door and just enjoyed it for what it was. The plot was okay. It's your typical evil person, trying to kill people and them fighting back. I'm going to break for a sec. I kept thinking this was Star Wars-like, or if they had just switched characters and came up with a new storyline, and just used, maybe this doesn't belong here, but the plot to me, I don't know, you're ruining Star Trek for me, and I just thought maybe they could have done these with a different cast of characters, a whole different universe, not related to Star Trek at all, and then I think you'd have something. So the plot's great, but I wish these younger guys could just come up with their own universe and play in that and get out of the one I enjoyed as a kid. W5BLT.
All right, thank you, Bill. And actually, just to digress a little bit, there has been some discussion about that in both J.J. Abrams and some of his successors who have also pitched for new Star Trek that are different, the original crew, a different crew sort of thing. And maybe with Strange New Worlds being such a success and having kind of transformative, even though it does rely on some previous ideas that were never pursued, it may be entirely possible to do that. I can imagine that happening. At any rate, I'll mention my comments at the end. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda, what did you think about the plot for Star Trek Beyond from KE5ICX?
This is WB50ZL. Well, it wasn't that bad compared to other Treks. It was watchable. I enjoyed it. I think the main thing it had wrong with it is it was just too much, too many explosions. The movie was too long, too many space fights, and not enough interaction. The conflicts and friendships of the crew in the original series and all the series is, to me, a big selling point. And I didn't think they had enough of that here. It was just more of blowing things up. Special effects were pretty good, but we'll talk about that later. But I would like to have seen more about the characters than just the explosions. I actually had seen this in the theater and then totally forgot about it. It was that unremarkable to me that I just was about halfway through and I said, wait a minute, I've seen this before. So it was, the first part of it was so, just so unremarkable to me that I just didn't have any kind of a hook. Let's see, plot. It was, you know, pretty standard, pretty formulaic. It had most of the right pieces except for the lack of the character involvement. Okay, back to net, WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And, I don't disagree with you. All right, before I make my comments, let me see if there are additional check-ins. Anybody else like to join us this evening? This is the Afterglow Movie Net, and we are talking about Star Trek Beyond. That's our movie for this week. New Trek. Even if you haven't seen the movie, you're more than welcome to check in. So here's your opportunity. Please come with your call sign, your name. Did you see Star Trek Beyond from 2016? Please come out.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, it's all about.
All right, we picked up one more, KB9SOK, one of the usual suspects. Sean, we're putting you on the spot. What did you think about the plot to Star Trek Beyond from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I agree with most of the comments that I've heard so far. This is a typical J.J. Abrams movie where it's all about the explosions and not so much into the deep story. Or back, you know, character building type of story. But it's just a basic action movie. I actually enjoyed it okay. You know, it's sometimes it's hard, and we've discussed this before, when you got nostalgia. You know, obviously as older folk that'll watch the original, it's hard to watch a new version of characters you already know. But what's interesting is when I talk to my nieces and nephews about these movies, and they actually like them very much. But a lot of them haven't really seen much of the original track. And then when you tell them to go watch the original, they come back and say, well, yeah, that was okay. But, so they kind of have an opposite view of it. So really, these movies, I think, are really focused for a younger generation. And they play a little bit of fan service. But if you just look at it, and you almost got to kind of separate yourself from the original, even though they did, you know, try very hard in the first movie, the 2009, to explain why things are different. And in some ways, I thought that was actually smart, because if you tried to truly just reboot the series and make it identical to the TV series, it would never have worked at all. You know, that was kind of their explanation why the characters act different, because their experiences were different. But yeah, it's definitely sometimes hard to watch when you've seen the original. You know, I remember going in to see 2009 one thinking, well, you know, I was really, really expecting to really hate it, and ended up liking it okay. You know, I still prefer the originals, but, you know, I thought it was okay for what it was. And too, sometimes, and we've discussed before too, in a TV series, you don't have the massive budget, so you have to focus on relationships and stories, which is not a bad thing. That's a good thing. You know, but the movies, they're all about, you know, they got the big budgets, and, you know, they want to bring extra people to the theater, so they want a lot of special effects, especially with these science fiction. So therefore, they focus more on that than the backstory, which is kind of unfortunate at times. So yeah, this was definitely, science fiction once again. There's parts of it you could poke fun at and say, well, that's not very realistic or what have you. But once again, it's science fiction, and I thought the plot was just okay. It's not super original, but I have to say I did like it much better than the second one. But I do think I liked the first one probably a little bit better than this one. Yeah, it was just okay. No major complaints about it. But yeah, I do agree with everybody that they overdid the battle. We didn't need to see 50 million of things puncturing the ship. Just a few scenes that would have been sufficient. If I had to, well, there's many things you can take apart the plot, but probably one of the biggest things I found was just, using the music at the end to destroy the drones. I could maybe buy off, they said if it just disoriented them and they weren't able to communicate, maybe they just went dormant, but, why did it explode them? That part didn't make a lot of sense. But it looks cool as they flew through it, so I'm sure that's, typical J.J. Abrams, more about the looks than the story. But it was okay, and I'll just leave it at that. Back to net, KB9, it's okay.
Okie doke. Thank you, Sean. Thanks for those comments. I will agree with everything that everybody said. I thought, first off, that the movie was a little too long or short on plot, depending on how you look at it. And one of the things, and compare and contrast with Strange New Worlds, which is what we talked about, I think it was last week, is that I think, and I always will believe, that Star Trek is a television series, and it performs best and is most appreciated when it is a television series. And I think that, the 4 sequel series that have come out, and then, of course, next gen, 5 series, I guess, I don't know, whatever it is, and the original series, you go back and watch those episodes, and they're really great, and they're a lot of fun. I think when you look at Strange New Worlds, it does a particularly good job, and we liked it when we watched it last week. As standalone stories, some of them small, some of them large, they do really well. When you go and you translate over to the big screen, as you mentioned, Sean, you've got to do the big effects. You've got to have the big story. You've got to bring in people more than just Star Trek fans. That's when things get murky. Your basic Star Trek fan is probably, and I don't want to overgeneralize, but I think they're more thoughtful. They're usually a little bit more intelligent. They demand more from their storylines, and you have to remain true to the Roddenberry and Gene Kuhn, the other Gene that never got much credit, because he died shortly after the original series. But that helped to create kind of the style, feel, and the locomotion that Star Trek has. That was missing somewhat in this. We'll talk about characterization in a bit, but Star Trek was never about big, huge explosions. That may have been a Star Wars thing. That, in its very name, would suggest that. And Star Trek was more of a thinking series. So when you try and blow it up, it doesn't work. It doesn't work well. Star Trek the Motion Picture, when it came out, was really a very long episode of Star Trek. In fact, they pulled aspects from The Changeling, which was the episode that really inspired the movie. And it worked, but it was core Star Trek fans that kind of liked it, and then they got something else later on that had a little more action in it. So maybe if they'd done the motion picture as a 1-hour episode, it probably wouldn't have done well. Probably wouldn't have done really well on Strange New Worlds. Who knows? Justin Lin, by the way, as director, you'll notice that the found ancient starship that's found is called the USS Franklin. Well, Justin Lin's father is named Frank Lin, 2 words, of course, and I saw the plaque, the dedication plaque, and if I remember correctly, when I saw it in the theater, there was a small space between Frank and Lynn to further bring out that it was his father, or at least that it was not quite just Franklin, but Frank Lynn. But I noticed in this copy that we watched, I watched last night, that had disappeared and was just USS Franklin. I may have missed it, I don't know, but at any rate, just a side light. Other than that, yeah, it was okay. I was getting bored with it. In fact, I fell asleep and missed the final few minutes, but I remember the film. If you can imagine, with explosions going off everywhere, that I would fall asleep, well, it's too much of the same stuff, that's why. I'm not an explosion guy, really not. There are other aspects of the film, special effects and the characterizations, which we'll go into next, which I thought were really good, and I'll comment more on that. But I'm going to stop at that point. Not my favorite film. It's way down in the list of films. Only Star Trek V might be worse. And was it Star Trek Nemesis? That was pretty terrible, too. Okay, let me see. Let me go ahead. I'll start at the top of the list again. We'll start talking about the characterization and acting in the film. So I'll skip Tony. He didn't see it, but Tony, if you have anything you want to say, just jump in there. KG5BZW, Jay, what did you think about characterization for Star Trek Beyond from KE5ICX?
This is K25BZW. Okay. Sorry, checking on Echoing, see how good my reception is by the repair. Not hard to, well, I'm getting distracted by radio stuff here because, I won't go into that. So, characters, what? You get into a little bit of Spock and Kirk, and then there's whoever the character is, played by Jennifer Lawrence, who, I mean, there isn't that much to her. She's, your typical adversary that becomes friends. Is actually not really even strictly an adversary, but there's a word for that. The stranger, the helpful stranger. Let's just put it that way. And then, of course, the enemy of it's an kind of interesting reveal at the end, but they didn't really go much into it, and they focused so much on the explosions and the blowing up things to the sound of Beastie Boys and all of that they didn't really get into that. And I'm trying to, there's that plot thing has been done before for sure. I wish I could remember where. I'm sure it was even in Star Trek, some episode somewhere. I really can't think of much to say character-wise. I mean, I don't want to call them flat because obviously they've got histories from, being the new Trek and what was explained there, but and of course the original series and how they differ and blah 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 blah. But you really don't get that much, except for okay, so not Admiral, but what was Nimoy's character and as reference to this, I can't even remember. Nimoy, the actor's deaf, meaning the character's deaf and all that, and how that fact stuff, and this really does kind of add-on thing that, if you really, really think about it, doesn't make any sense, but then it doesn't make that much into the first set, although it was kind of cool to see Nimoy, play the role again. But, in the original, in the first one of the new. But, other than that, I can't think of anything else. KG5BW, thanks, man.
All right, thank you, Jay. Next up is Burl, KF5TSK. Burl, what do you think of characterization and acting in Star Trek Beyond?
This is KF5TSK. Well, one of the things that really stood out to me was they spent a lot of time developing Commander Spock that, most Trek series, the human robot that, can find the answer to whatever. But in this particular movie, he has a girlfriend and he's going to go save her from whoever. He's injured, which, you never see that Spock always has something that goes away in 12 hours. And, he really, developed as a person, his father, Ambassador, Scott died. I mean, a lot of things were centered around him. And, really he comes across as, being a complete person. Probably airtime he probably had more than anyone. One of the persons that I really liked was Simon Pegg, Scotty. He always has a lot of action and excitement. And I also noticed that he was one of the, screenwriters. He's always interesting to see because he always has solutions somewhere. The other person I had spent time looking for was J-Lo that, she really had a big part, in this particular movie that, the other people remember the names of the characters and we know what they do and, how they function. But, I spent some time looking for her, and it was like, she really played a, large part of the whole movie. Like I said, the whole movie was, I think it was more about the characterizations and rather, special effects, because it's like, we've seen all this before. KF5TSK back to net.
Okie dokie. Thank you, Burl. Next up is Ken, N2VIP. Ken, what did you think of characterization, acting in Star Trek Beyond from KE5ICX?
Memories from a while ago. I just remember generally, I always liked the Star Trek cast. I think they've got good characters. They're enough different from TV, but they're similar enough to the TV show. And I thought it was pretty well done. I don't have any more details. I'm pretty much at the bottom of the barrel, so I'm going to skip out of the next round. N2VIP, back to net.
All right, Ken. Well, I think you're thinking of the movie Star Trek Into Darkness was the one. I had to look up the title. That's how bad I am with the names on the new Trek. But that was the film with the underwater sea hunt adventure. Okay, next is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, You saw the movie twice, you said, so what did you think about characterization? Was it twice as good? From KE5ICX.
W5BLT. Yeah, the first one I saw with descriptive video, which narrates it for people who are blind and low vision, and so I got the descriptions of the movie there. And then at the second time I was watching, I thought, wait a minute, I think I've seen this before. So I'm echoing Brenda. I like the characters. It probably was very hard for me to get past that other universe thing. But, I thought they did a really good job. And some of the cadence on the voices that they did, it held its own. I wouldn't buy the movie, but I did like the characters. I would have preferred some cleanup on the language. I think it would have been maybe a fun movie to watch with my daughter, with or without subtitles. But I like what they did with Spock and Scotty. You did get to kind of know them a little more. The Captain Kirk, for me, was, I just didn't see it. I could see some of the other characters and the way they behaved, but this to me wasn't the James D. Kirk to me. So that one I couldn't believe, but the rest of them I could. So enjoyed that aspect, and if I didn't get hung up on liking some of the other series and things, and yeah, I've seen this before, and it was just a good movie, and the characters were well done. I mean, the actors are good. I have no complaint on the acting. W5BLT.
Okay, thank you, Bill. Next up, WB50ZL. Brenda, your thoughts on characterization or the acting in Star Trek Beyond from KE5ICX?
This is WB50ZL. Well, I agree. Generally, the actors did an excellent job of capturing their characters, and they were kind of fun to watch. I did miss Nurse Chapel. I don't know why she's not in this or why they couldn't have brought her in. But to me, that was a glaring absence. And I'm enjoying that character in the new series, Strange New Worlds. The character of Kroll, I didn't understand him. He was just, to me, he was just basically an evil guy, and he didn't have any complexity. He didn't seem to have a good reason for doing what he did, and killing bunches of people and creating destruction. And he was a really unsympathetic character, just aside from the fact he's killing everybody. But a lot of these villains, at least you have some idea of why they do what they do and what their motivation is, and I just didn't get it with him. So, I'm glad they didn't try and bring in too many more characters, but stuck with the old ones. A lot of movies do that, and you can't sort out who's who, so I'm glad they didn't try and do that. The guy that played Chekhov, unfortunately, he died a month before the movie was released, so obviously he won't be in any other movies. It's just very tragic. Died in a car wreck obviously suddenly. Okay, back to net, WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda, and thanks for that backstory. KB9SOK, Sean, your thoughts on characterization acting in Star Trek Beyond, KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I got a little bit of bad news for you, because there you made the comment that there probably won't be any more of these, but actually, believe it or not, they are working on the next one. They're putting the script together now. They actually got the characters agree to come back to do another one. So Tom, you may have to suffer through another one. But, yeah, this one, the characters, you know, I thought the actors did a decent job. You know, I mean, it had to be a little bit daunting to try to take on, you know, these classic characters and you know, stay true, but also put their own spin on it. Yeah, as mentioned, you know, they did attempt to do something with Spock there and do a little bit of character development. And actually, in all three of the movies, Spock was a big focus. And I think has actually been a lot of ways bigger focus than Captain Kirk in these series, and actually trying to grow that character to some extent. Even though this movie didn't go super deep, but he was probably the one with the most the growth, I would say, out of all of them. As far as the rest, I thought they did okay. You know, the funny part is, I think my two favorite characters is probably the Dr. McCoy and Scotty. And then the next would probably be for me would be Spock. And then the sad part is, I think really Kirk was the worst of the characters. To me, he just doesn't feel like Captain Kirk. In all three of these movies, I know we're really talking about this one, but they just, you know, it just doesn't at all have the same feel. You know, I know they're trying to, you know, the backstory saying why he's not the captain that we've seen in the original series. But, you know, I mean, if you kind of look at the three movies altogether, would you really follow this guy in the battle? You know, in every one he seems extremely doubtful. 1 second, the next second he thinks he knows what to do. But, and they definitely, even though Captain Kirk's always been kind of more of a fighter than maybe a deep thinker, but even in the original series, you know, he definitely was able to figure things out. In this series, it seems like they kind of treat him as an idiot, you know, and in some respects. But then, you know, yeah, I just don't care for how they're portraying him in these movies. You know, but I think they've done a much better job with all the other characters. Really holding more true and having fun with it. Yeah, not super deep on this one, but I do think the actors overall, most of them did a good job. Yeah, the Strange New World series, yeah, I do think it's way better than this, and with each episode, I'm liking it more and more and more. So, looking forward to see where they take that to. Back to net, KB9, that's okay.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sean. And we are at the bottom of the list. I'll go ahead and ask at this point, if any, before I give my comments, does anybody else want to join us this evening? We're talking about Star Trek Beyond from 2016, one of the new Trek reboot movies that was available online streaming, I think, on Pluto TV this week. Anybody like to join us? Please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see the film? Okay, hearing that. And by the way, I'm wearing my original Star Trek original series T-shirt. I think my brother gave me this, so yeah, it's nice, even with the original logo and everything. My thoughts on characterization. Well, first, the core cast I really like. I'll disagree with you a little bit on the Kirk character. I thought that Chris Pine does a pretty good job playing Captain Kirk and kind of channeling the William Shatner version of him, although he doesn't do every word is its own sentence type of thing like Shatner did. It's more of a, you know, a little better delivery, I think, and I think the acting is a little more subtle, although he pretty much hammed it up even at the very beginning of this film. I didn't mind that. I think Zachary Quinto has captured the Spock character really well and even looks the part. I think that Leonard Nimoy gave him a thumbs up on all this, or whatever that hand signal thing is he does, and thought he, you know, once again gives a story you don't know what you've gotten into, and of course Zachary Quinto now knows, but in any case. And then Simon Pegg, this great Scotty, love it. He does a very nice job with that, I think. And then Carl Urban, who I find to be a really interesting actor outside of the Star Trek series, and he is creative. He is a writer as well. In fact, he started his own series that he wrote for back in England. He just channels Dr. McCoy to just an incredible degree. I think he just does a wonderful job with that. And Leonard Nimoy also mentioned that about him when he was on set with him during the reboot series, or the first two movies. So, yeah, why not? So the cast itself, the core cast, I think, did a really wonderful job. As an original fan, I felt that they did a pretty fair job with the characters. The actors did a really good job with the characters. Now, story-wise and all that, motivations and that, not so much. I am of the same mind of others when it comes to the main antagonist in this. He ended up being somewhat, what is the motivation? Why is he so hell-bent against Starfleet and all of that? Well, you can use the old axiom that maybe, well, all of the absolute power corrupts absolutely, or the alien technology that kind of took him over caused these issues. That's fine. It's never really explained. Any story that you do, you have to provide a clear motivation of your antagonist. Well, that never happened. When you have to invent it as a person watching it, they didn't do a very good job in my book. Let's see, who else was in it? Jayla, Sophia Botella. Looking down here. She was great. I enjoyed her a lot. She was fun to watch. Interesting character. It's a very physical part as well, and she carried it off extremely well. She held her own amongst this cast, and I think that was really great. No problems there. Uhura, Zoe Saldana, I think it is. She's known, I think, from, the Blue People thing. I can't think of the name of it. You know, the Blue Aliens. Brenda, you know who they are. Type it in the box so I can remember. With the yellow eyes and the blue skin, and it sort of like Dances with Wolves. She's in that thing, which I guess they have a sequel coming here after 10 years. She's typing it in now. I'll know in just a minute, and I'll be... No, Brenda, you're not helping. She's supposed to give me this information because it's her favorite movie. So, I don't know, not too bad. I mean, it was, I think that the cast was the least to worry about in all this. I thought everybody did a really nice job in taking care of the story. Now, there's one character, one actress in this who played Commodore Paris, Shohria Agdashlu. That voice is driving me crazy. I guess I'm going to have to look her up and find out what else she's done. That voice sounds so familiar to me. I don't know, maybe it's her carton of cigarettes she smokes every day, but in any case, I liked her in her brief role in this. So overall, I think everybody delivered solid performances, even though they didn't have much in the way of a script that really won me over. I think that is, again, going back to the first round, if this story were a little bit shorter rather than a full feature length, 2 hours and 6 minutes, maybe made it 90 minutes, they might have been able to win me over. But it's just too much fodder with explosions and things. Maybe more dialogue, maybe something with scenes other than explosions. But then we get into that episode thing I was talking about earlier. All right, we will start at the top of the list. This is round 3. We got 15 minutes left. That should be enough time to cover it. We'll go down the list. I think we got time to do that. Let's start with Jay, KG5BZWJ. What did you think about special effects or anything you want to add that we haven't covered so far from KE5ICX?
Oh, okay. This is KQ5BCW. Clearly, I have some mnemonic devices that have failed me, because I for whatever reason I've always associated Jennifer Lawrence with Jayla, and it's of course it's not even remotely her. Maybe it's because of the name. I don't know. Of course, I get those kind of things confused for some reason. And of course, special effects. That's basically what this movie is about. But it didn't do too bad of a job. They used some new techniques. I think that at least they were new as I had seen them. Using more of the actual camera effects, like what do you call that? But it's an actual camera effect that is done in computer for like the building of the Enterprise. That was pretty cool. Of course, the enemies, the bazillion enemies coming in and doing the bees. I guess that's what they call them. That's more the same Lord of the Rings fight scene type thing, except for just even maybe bigger. I don't know. I guess they wanted to show a spectacle, and that's what they gave us. There were some other things. Interesting. I don't know if that might be typical for the new movies. The teleport is a little bit unique. Of course, the eating up of the crew, it's kind of horrific, but not really, because there's nothing left to see, not even bones or anything, by their little device that was to be deployed. Music-wise, I thought it was okay. Can't remember it right now. I think all of the new ones actually reference the old original series music, which I find good. I actually kind of like that over the Star Trek motion picture, which music, which kind of defined that series, and the Star Trek Next Generation series as well, I think. I'm trying to think of. There's a lot of special effects to comment on it. You'd have to almost have to go through a list of things like me, just trying to think of it off the top of your head. I'm going to leave it at that because there's other people here. KQ5BCW.
Okay, doke. Thanks, Jay. Next is Burl, KF5TSK. Burl, your thoughts on special effects, music, whatever you want, or if anything you missed on the first two rounds. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
This is KF5TSK. Well, I like the music. Seemed to always be appropriate. One of the things about the movie is that some of the scenes and some of the battles, it was like one of the aliens that I don't know how he got on board the Enterprise, but it was like he fired once and he knocked like 8 of the Enterprise crew out with one shot. It was so many things seem to be so lopsided, and our weapons don't work. We don't know why, and it never seemed to be a much of a battle. It was almost like the Enterprise was just completely destroyed. Most special effects, I didn't see anything new. I didn't see anything that I would, it might be more advanced than the TV series, but I didn't really see anything special. Kia5 TSK back to net.
Thank you, Burrell. Thanks for your comments this evening. Let's see. Ken's out. W5BLT. Bill, anything you want to talk about in this round? Anything? Go ahead. From KE5ICX.
Oh, wow, the pressure's on. No, it was a good surround sound movie, explosions and things like that. One thing I was going to mention is I don't think it's the age thing with the hearing. I've noticed that my daughter will turn on the closed caption on the newer stuff if to get the audio. So I think it's just I don't know, they just do a bad job. And the only other thing I will add is, as far as the music goes, I liked it until they cranked up the heavy metal music there. I have to say that it's kind of weird to just kind of weird to have the music. I thought the way that they caused issues with the swarm with the music, I don't know, it's far-fetched. But it worked if you left that behind. I'm not going to say anything else. Thank you again, as always, for running that W5BLT.
Very good. Thank you, Bill, for your comments this evening. They're most appreciated. Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, any final comments on anything you want to talk about? We haven't covered special effects or music, but it's whatever you want from KE5ICX.
This is WB50ZL. Well, the movie we couldn't think of was Avatar. Zoe Saldana, such a good actress. She was in that, and of course she played Uhura, and I always thought she did a pretty good job with Uhura. Special effects, of course, were good, and they spent $185 million on this. It better be good. Fortunately, they made money. They made $383 million, so I think that's pretty profitable. It's not gangbusters, but it's definitely a good ROI in anybody's book. Music was okay. I didn't think it was unusually special. And, there just really wasn't anything new or unique in this movie. It's just more Star Trek, more of the same. I don't know what they could have done to set it apart, but maybe that's the reason why I just didn't remember it, because there was nothing interesting or special about it. But it was still enjoyable. I would recommend anybody to watch it, because it's fun. Okay, back to net, WB50ZL.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. And last but certainly not least, Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, anything you would like to talk about, please go ahead from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I forgot to mention last round about her as well. I thought that was she played that really well, and like I said, she's been very good in other movies, Avatars, and also she's in Guardians of the Galaxy, the Marvel series, and did a very good job there as well. And just overall, I've seen her in a couple other small parts, and she's always done very well. Yeah, the special effects, of course, were good. No surprise there. I thought it was kind of an interesting touch on the U.S. Franklin that they, all their screens were monochrome like the old school computer screens way back in the day. Just the green screen. So somebody thought they would. I thought it was kind of strange, but it was like, well, I guess it was kind of a. It did give you a feel. It was making you think that was a very old ship. So I thought that was a nice little touch. And yeah, the music, as usual, they threw the theme in when it needed to be thrown in there. The background was supposed to be dramatic. And yeah, obviously, if the heavy metal thing's not your thing, you're not going to enjoy that part. But it was a nice touch to some extent, just because they used that exact same song in the first movie when he drove the car off the cliff. So it's kind of a nod back to that first episode, which I thought was kind of funny. So that was okay. Yeah, I agree with the audio. Everybody said the audio. All these modern movies, it's tough to hear them, and I hear it from many people that complain about it all the time. And I've not done any research, so I really don't know. But I suspect it has a lot to do with, they now record these things, so that way you can play it on 7.1 or 5.1 surround. And sometimes I think they don't get the conversions quite right. I don't know if they assume everybody's using surround. It has a center channel, which is primarily for voice. But and I even have a center channel, and it, there are times it is hard to hear people in these movies. I kind of got that complaint for a lot of these modern movies that they just don't seem to get that right. It's really hard to hear the people, which is the most important part. So, they seem to focus more on the other sounds, but I digress. That's just that's a complaint across the board with many of them. But overall, once again, I enjoyed the movie. It was okay. It's not my favorite of the Star Trek, but it was okay. And I'll probably someday watch it again. I do actually own the DVDs. Of course, I just collect the Star Trek series anyway, so I'm sure I'll watch it at some point. But back to net. KB9, that's okay.
All right, thank you, Sean. Thanks for your comments. Thanks to everybody for your comments this evening. Okay, mine are next. I'll keep them short. Special effects, you betcha. Loved it. I loved the Yorktown sequences, although it's kind of hard to believe, but hey, we're talking 300 years in the future. Who knows what 300 years will bring us? I don't think I'll be around. But even still, I did like it. I liked how they handled that. It was wonderful to see, and then overlaying Michael Giacchino's music on top of it, I thought was just fantastic. Now, this guy is very good. You remember his music from television series Lost, which, by the way, he did some really great stuff there. And also, he did music for The Incredibles, that animated series, which I thought was, really kind of fun. He did that jazzy kind of retro thing. Very talented guy, and he started with in becoming kind of famous with the Call of Duty scores that he did for some of the early Call of Duty video games. So he was brought to the attention of J.J. Abrams, and he was used on a couple of his TV series, and then, of course, brought him in for Star Trek. I think he's a worthy successor to Jerry Goldsmith, my favorite composer of all time, who also did the Star Trek movies. This guy is really, really good, and I'm very glad to see him take that big sound and make it work in movies, and most notably his Star Trek stuff. But all in all, excellent. By the way, if you haven't heard, he did the music for one of the Star Trek TV series, the animated one. I'll think of it, Prodigy, Star Trek Prodigy, which is an interesting show, by the way, if you ever get a chance to see it. At the opening sequence, he just lets the orchestra go, and that whole theme is like really great. I think it's my favorite of all of them, even above Strange New Worlds, which I think does a very worthy job. Listen to it sometime. You can find it on YouTube. I think you might agree. All right, next week we're going to be traveling back to 1954, and we're going to watch the movie called On the Threshold of Space. That will be our next film. By the way, if you're interested as well, the next film after that will be The Gamma People from 1954, and then after that, we're going to be watching Battlefield Earth over at Field Day. I'll let you know the best ways to go and see that film. I'm not sure exactly how that will be, but we will be watching it over in air-conditioned splendor at our Field Day site. But next week's movie is On the Threshold of Space, available on YouTube. Shouldn't find it too difficult to find online. If you want to be added to the email list, send me an email. My call sign is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray at yahoo.com. KE5ICX at yahoo.com is my email address, or you can go to Afterglow Movie, that's 2 words, Afterglow and Movie, and sign up there. There is a restriction on it. I just have to approve you. It won't take too long. Send out all of the updates and the links and everything, usually Sunday morning unless I forget, so you'll get it there. Thank you, everyone. I had a good time this evening. And this concludes our night of Nets. 7-3, everybody. Have a great week. Have a great Sunday. This is KE5ICX. I'm clear.